Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. And this is a little bit different. This is an RSF1 league racing thing in the background, but I'm going to be talking about the Azerbaijan round 6 Grand Prix we've just had, which was very eventful. And yeah, it started off for Mercedes. They had a few issues in practice. Nobody really knew what was going on with the Mercedes, but for some reason they were very slow in practice. But they picked it up as they went into qualifying, and Hamilton managed to drag his car into, I think it was P2 on the grid. Bottas nowhere near. Bottas was absolutely nowhere. Leclerc somehow scraped the pole position. I say scraped, I think he was on pole by about 2 tenths. Ridiculous. And he managed to get pole position with, well, to be honest, not the fastest car. Verstappen was back in P3 with Perez, I think, P6. And yeah, so we jump forward to the race. Now, Verstappen did not get the start he would have wanted. He was still in P3 coming around into the next straight, and Hamilton was P2 with Leclerc still leading. And it came up to the first pit stops. Verstappen managed to jump Hamilton in the pits because Hamilton was held by Pierre Gasly coming down the pit lane, which, you know, better than an unsafe release and having a penalty and going further back and, you know, ruining your entire race. So that was a very good idea from the Mercedes crew to hold him back, and they done a very good job with that as well. And then you had Perez, who pitted the following lap, had a little mistake on the pit stop, which Red Bull are really not known for, but they still jumped Hamilton by quite a margin as well, if you may add. That Red Bull was working really well around the Azerbaijan Baku circuit, and it just seemed to click. But we got to the race, like further into the race, and you saw Verstappen leading, Perez leading Hamilton. Leclerc at this point dropped quite far back. I think he was running around in about P6. He was having a bit of a nightmare for himself, and it wasn't really comfortable for him, and the Ferrari was basically showing its true pace, and he was nowhere near. But then we get to the controversial part of the Grand Prix here in Baku that we just had. Basically, the tyres. Now, the first one, Lance Stroll, coming around onto the main straight. His rear left tyre just explodes. It literally explodes, throws him into the wall at high speed. He was lucky to walk away without an injury. Very dangerous crash, and to this point we still don't know really what happened. It was just a complete tyre malfunction. We had this, I believe, a few years ago at Silverstone, might have been. But it was very bizarre and very scary as well. I can imagine it was terrifying for Lance Stroll inside the cockpit of the car there, hurtling straight into the wall at those speeds, and it was crazy how it actually happened. But we didn't have just one tyre blowout. We had 2. So, getting on to the final 3 laps of the race. Or 4 laps, I think, when it happened. Max Verstappen quite far out ahead now. I think he was about 4 or 5 seconds ahead of actual Perez, his teammate, actually. With Hamilton in P3, I believe, at this point. And he was literally just coming down the straight, minding his own business. Next minute, his rear left tyre explodes like Lance Stroll's did, and it was absolutely terrifying. The speed he hurtled into the wall was awful to watch. I'm not really sure how Pirelli managed to mess up the tyres as bad as they done. They said the tyres could last 40 laps. Lance Stroll's tyres, I believe, exploded on about 30, and Verstappen's, I'm not sure what lap that was on. You have to let me know down in the comments. And it was very scary for both drivers, and it nearly cost Verstappen a huge championship deficit. But it didn't, because we got a red flag. All drivers managed to change their tyres because there was fears over everyone else having the tyre blowouts as well. So we got another standing start, where Perez was starting on pole with Hamilton P2, Sebastian Vettel in P3 on the fresh soft tyres, the only car on fresh softs. So he was in a brilliant place, Sebastian Vettel was, and he was looking the favourite for a good battle for the podium anyway. I think he probably would have got the podium either way. So, we got to the start. Hamilton was doing a little warm-up as he always does with his Mercedes and the brakes. And you noticed something on the grid where he was just sat there and his brakes were practically on fire. They were cooking. And it got to the point where we was wondering what was going on. We thought he may have had a problem. He went to start the race as well as everybody. He got an amazing start, to be honest. He got alongside Perez and looked like he was going to take the lead. And then he went straight on. He put his brakes on. There was no brake impact at all. The brakes did absolutely nothing. And he went straight on. Ended up back at the back of the field. Back there with his teammate Bottas, who's, I think Bottas finished P13 in the end. Hamilton managed to finish P15. But we found out after the race he left a heat sensor on for his brakes that Mercedes use normally in the warm-up phases or safety cars and everything to keep their brakes hot and on formation laps. And he accidentally left it on, which absolutely ruined him into turn 1. He had no brakes at all, went straight on. He was lucky not to actually collide with Perez. Perez's quick thinking moved out of the way and just let Hamilton go straight on. And yeah, that's what happened to Lewis. So neither of the top two got points. So the top championship remained as it was. 105 points for Verstappen, I believe 102 Hamilton, I think. But yeah, it was very eventful. And Aston Martin getting their first podium with a P2 for Sebastian Vettel. His first podium since Turkey 2020. I think it was 2020. And Gasly coming home in P3 with Perez getting his first win for Red Bull Racing and his second win of his career after he got his first win last year at the Bahrain Short Grand Prix for the Racing Point team, which is now Aston Martin. But an amazing Grand Prix altogether. Pirelli really do need to evaluate what they've done with their tyres, because it was dangerous and they can't have that happen. They cannot have that happen regularly because it will cause serious damage to somebody. Someone will get hurt. So Pirelli will need to look into that. But overall, what an amazing Grand Prix the Baku race was. Qualifying had 3 red flags as well. I think it was 3 or 4. It was crazy. Absolute crazy weekend of racing. But I hope my opinion doesn't offend too many people. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. The race, as you can see in the background for RSF1 around Japan, went absolutely awfully. Hence why I decided to do the F1 Baku commentary over the top of it, my review. So I thought I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as they say. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I have been Crisp12 LFC. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed, and I will see you later.